Hi, Peter King here. Thanks for clicking on the link. I'm glad you did. But of course you've got the resume and the CV to read as well if you so desire. I hope you do, in fact. Well, I've made a few notes, which shows I'm a sort of organised person. So I just thought just give you a few minutes to tell you about myself. I've been in the print and television and film industry and web design for most of my life now, and I must say I love it. It is a passion. I'm also into social media, but a little bit more about that a little bit later. I've worked on a variety of projects and in a variety of roles over the years, and I've been very fortunate to do so. I started out as an editor, went on to be a telecine colour grader as well, did some sound mixing. This was at Channel 7. I was headhunted from there and taken overseas to a facility which was an analogue facility at that stage. Now, the thing about some of the innovations that I've done over the years, this facility wanted to go from analogue to digital, and so I was instrumental in that. I was the operations manager and the senior editor at the facility, and I implemented the changeover to the full digital suite. Now, one of the things I did there, which was pretty well out there at the time and thinking outside the box, was I put an actual Apple Mac in an edit suite. Now these days you'd think, well, that's perfectly normal. I mean, I work with Final Cut Pro on an Apple Mac, on a Mac Pro today and every day now. But in those days, to have an actual Apple Mac in an edit suite was just unheard of. And with that Apple Mac, we managed to extract frames from a digital video disc that we purchased, which the manufacturers didn't even think you could do. But I found Ethernet ports on the Apple Mac and on the video discs and joined it all up together. I love joining things together and putting bits and pieces together. And with that I could bring in, a couple of hundred frames and bring them into Adobe After Effects, and we could do some great special effects and some amazing things. And that was back in the days when it just wasn't happening, and still Flame and Inferno were a bit of a over the horizon sort of idea. From there I came back to Sydney after about 7 or 8 years working overseas, and made my own TV program for the Prime network. They loved it, but the major network, ATN7, said that they didn't want Prime jumping out of the network grid every day, so they thought, no, you have to drop the show. Now Prime sent us to ATN7 with commendations to say it's a fabulous show, but unfortunately at that stage ATN said that yes, the show was a great idea. It was very creative. It was all about products and services and things that you could get around town. But Seven said, no, we're going to make our own TV program just like that, in fact. And about a year later out came Better Homes and Gardens. So, so I've been in a creative role just about all of my life. I've also been a very senior person since about the 90s. I became the operations manager, as I said, of a digital facility and the senior editor, and I've basically been operations manager and the head of production everywhere I've gone since then. I'm currently the head of production here where I work with a great bunch of people. It's a registered training organisation, and I write, produce, direct, edit, do the graphics, do the web design, do the audio mixing, and recently I've even stretched to writing the music for them, because I'm a guitarist and I play the piano as well, so I've been doing a little bit extra work sort of making the music, so I don't have to use canned music, and I can get that feel that I just want with the video. Now I'm also into the social media thing, as I said before, because I'm the local breakfast host of a radio show and a community radio station out here in the Hills District called Live 90.5, and I've gone from about 40,000 listeners when I started about 4 years ago to, at the last McNair poll, I think it was around about 189,000 listen to my show in the mornings. So and we have a lot of fun. I've got a co-host and we have a lot of fun and really enjoy ourselves, and that's what I think life's about. Hopefully I think I'm a fun person to work with. Certainly all the people here I work with, we all have a good laugh, and but we do knuckle down and get the job done, and that's important. That's very important. you got to do it on time and on budget, and I read that in your brief there on the internet at Seek. As I said, I've managed teams for many years. I've mentored a lot of young people, and I've brought them through to be editors, graphic designers, even 3D, which is one of my little favourite pastimes as well, and I do a lot of 3D for the videos here, and just try and add a little bit of extra flavour to it. Once again, with the social media, I've used that to my advantage quite significantly at the radio station. I put wacky stories on the pages. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I'm just getting more and more followers every day. I get that little email saying now so and so is following you. So I can see the progression in people kind of listening to what I have to say, or just reading the wacky stories and the crazy stories that I find and read out each morning. So I'm into it all. I mean, I've got my smartphone, I've got my Android tablet, I've got my iPad, so I'm pretty well up on all of that sort of thing. And as I said when I talked about the innovation in the Edit Suite, I've done plenty of things like that for other people over the years. I've been fortunate enough to work on some pretty amazing projects like Lord of the Rings. I've worked on that twice actually. At one stage I sat there cutting what's called the animatic with Peter Jackson himself in an Edit Suite, and putting together the sort of, this is how it's going to look, this is how it's going to feel for the big film companies. I also got to work on it again once more when I was the operations manager of Garner McLennan Design, or GMD as they were known, and I was pretty lucky there too. We got the great scene where Frodo offers Galadriel the One Ring, if you know the film, if you know the story, and she goes, "Oh, I would be a queen of evil," and things like that. So that was amazing to work on that. I got to also work on Rabbit Proof Fence, The Quiet American, Inspector Gadget 2. That was a bit of fun. Not a very serious movie, but yeah, I've been around a lot of big film jobs, and I've had a lot of really big clients, and I've had to deal with them and sort out any problems that they're having, any sort of things that have gone wrong. Usually things don't go wrong, especially if you kind of think about it and you plan ahead, which is what I like to do. Dealt with a lot of Japanese clients as well, and at the moment I'm dealing, of course, with a lot of very corporate people who don't think the way that print people and film people and TV people and that think about their scripts and what they're doing. So you've got to help them through the process so that they can get what they want, and not just what they want, but what they need. Because a lot of the time people say, "Oh, I want this," but what they really need is more this. So yeah, I think that's very important too. You talked about being calm under pressure. Now I've got a little story for you about that. I'm married with, I've been married for 23 years, and I've got 3 beautiful children. When my oldest was the youngest child, about 2 years old, we lived in a house with great big thick wooden doors, and he unfortunately got his little finger caught in his index finger caught in the door jamb, and it basically cut it off. It was hanging on by a thread. So instead of panicking and going crazy, I put his finger back on, and with his mother, who was a little bit panic stricken, but that's because she's mum, we drove to the local hospital. We stood there with the doctor, and the doctor said, "Well, I think we're going to have to cut that bit of finger off, and then we'll need to cut one of his toes off and sew that onto his finger." Well, I calmly turned around and said, "Isn't there a neurosurgeon or someone like that we should be talking to?" And the doctor there went, "Oh, yes, I suppose we could." And of course, I can say to this day, my son still has a perfectly normal index finger and all his toes. So I know what it's like to be under pressure with clients, and they want it done now, and they want this and they want that, and I've handled it pretty well most of my life, even the horrible things like, you know, your son's finger's half cut off. So I think I can be pretty calm and keep clients very happy, and that's really important. And if the clients, especially if the clients are internal and you've got to talk to them every day, that's really, really important. Now, as far as software and things like that's concerned, yes, the Adobe Master Collection is my friend. I love it. I use it all day, every day. Final Cut Pro, all day, every day. And Cinema 4D is my favourite 3D program, along with Maya. But I use all of those all day. I do all my own audio mixing in in Soundtrack Pro and Pro Tools. So I have really got across all the software. I understand the use of the social media sites, and I always look ahead to see if there's anything better we can possibly do. Well, listen, I won't go on for too much longer because I think you've probably got a busy day, and I've still got a few bits of work to finish, so I better get back to it. Thanks very much for tuning in and being on my Facebook channel as well. So thanks very much, Peter King. I better get back to work.